45-year-old Mark Thompson had been carrying his wife Sarah's ashes in a simple wooden urn for 6 months, unable to let go of the woman who had battled cancer for 2 years while dreaming of attending just one Taylor Swift concert together. When he made the decision to buy 2 tickets to Taylor's show at Madison Square Garden and bring Sarah with him in the only way he still could. What Mark didn't expect was that his quiet grief would catch Taylor's attention from the stage, leading to a discovery about Sarah's final wish that would create the most emotionally powerful tribute performance in concert history and establish a foundation that would help thousands of other families facing terminal illness find hope in music. Before we dive into Mark's heartbreaking journey to fulfill his wife's dying wish and Taylor's incredible response that would honor Sarah's memory in ways Mark never imagined possible, I need to ask you something. If stories about love that transcends death and the healing power of music to connect us across every boundary matter to you, please hit that subscribe button right now. These stories take weeks to investigate and verify, and your subscription helps us continue sharing the moments that remind us all that the deepest connections we make in life can continue to transform the world long after we're gone. Now, back to Mark's unforgettable tribute. Mark Thompson had met Sarah Williams when they were both 25 years old, working at the same marketing firm in Chicago, where Sarah's infectious laugh and passionate enthusiasm for life had immediately drawn Mark's attention during a company meeting where she had defended a creative campaign that everyone else thought was too risky to pursue. Their first date had been to a small music venue where an unknown artist was performing acoustic covers of popular songs, and Sarah had told Mark that she believed music was the closest thing to magic that existed in the world. Over their 20-year marriage, Mark and Sarah had attended dozens of concerts together, always seeking out new artists and experiencing live music as a shared adventure that deepened their connection to each other and to the emotions that music could evoke. Sarah had a particular gift for discovering artists before they became famous, and she had been following Taylor Swift's career since her earliest country music days, predicting that Taylor would become one of the most important musicians of their generation. When Sarah was diagnosed with stage 3 ovarian cancer at age 43, one of the first things she said to Mark was that she regretted never having seen Taylor Swift perform live, despite following her career for over a decade. Sarah had always assumed they would have plenty of time to attend a Taylor Swift concert someday, but the cancer diagnosis made her realize that someday was a luxury that people facing terminal illness couldn't afford. "Promise me something," Sarah had said to Mark during her first week of chemotherapy. "If I get better, we're going to see Taylor Swift in concert. And if I don't get better, I want you to go for both of us." Mark had made the promise easily, believing at the time that Sarah would beat the cancer and they would attend the concert together as part of her recovery celebration. But as Sarah's treatment progressed and her condition worsened, Mark began to understand that he might have to fulfill the promise in a way he had never anticipated. During Sarah's final months, when she was too weak to leave the hospital for extended periods, she had listened to Taylor Swift's music constantly, finding comfort in songs like "Soon You'll Get Better," which had been written about Taylor's own mother's cancer battle, and, quote, "Ronan," Taylor's tribute to a 4-year-old boy who had died of cancer. Sarah felt that Taylor understood the experience of fighting terminal illness in a way that few other artists did, and she often told Mark that listening to Taylor's music made her feel less alone in her struggle. She writes about the things that matter. Sarah had explained to Mark, not just love and heartbreak, but real life, loss and hope, and the way music can help us survive the worst things that happen to us. When Sarah died on a quiet Tuesday morning in March, 6 months before Taylor's Madison Square Garden concert, Mark was devastated, not just by the loss of his wife, but by the knowledge that he would never be able to fulfill their shared dream of experiencing Taylor's music together in a live setting. But as Mark processed his grief over the following months, he began to feel that attending the concert alone would be a way to honor Sarah's memory and to complete the promise he had made to her during her treatment. He decided to buy 2 tickets to Taylor's show, one for himself and one for Sarah, whom he planned to bring with him in the form of the small wooden urn that now contained her ashes, and sat on their nightstand next to a framed photo of them at a music festival from happier times. Mark had never attended a concert alone, and he had certainly never brought cremated remains to a live music event, but he felt that Sarah would have wanted him to find a way to experience Taylor's music with her, even if she could only be present in spirit and in the urn that he carried carefully in a small backpack designed to protect fragile items. On the night of the concert, Mark arrived at Madison Square Garden early, holding both tickets and feeling a mixture of anticipation and profound sadness, as he realized that this would be both the fulfillment of Sarah's dream and a painful reminder of everything he had lost. He found their seats in the lower level of the arena, carefully placed the backpack containing Sarah's ashes on the seat beside him, and sat quietly as the venue filled with excited fans preparing for one of the most anticipated concerts of the year. As Taylor began her performance, Mark found himself crying almost immediately, overwhelmed by the realization that Sarah would have loved every moment of the spectacle: the elaborate stage design, the costume changes, the way Taylor connected with her audience through stories and interactions between songs. Mark talked quietly to the urn throughout the performance, describing what Sarah was seeing and sharing his reactions to songs that he knew she would have particularly enjoyed. But it was during Taylor's performance of Ronan, the heartbreaking tribute to the 4-year-old cancer victim that had meant so much to Sarah during her final months, that Mark's grief became visible to those around him, and eventually to Taylor herself. Mark was sobbing uncontrollably, clutching the urn and speaking to Sarah as if she could hear him, telling her how much he missed her and how sorry he was that she couldn't be there to experience the song that had given her comfort during her darkest days. From the stage, Taylor noticed a middle-aged man in the audience who appeared to be in significant emotional distress, holding what looked like a small container and speaking to it as if it contained something precious to him. Taylor's experience performing Ronan had taught her to recognize the particular kind of grief that cancer creates, and she suspected that she was witnessing someone who had lost a loved one to the disease that the song commemorated. After finishing Ronan, Taylor walked to the edge of the stage closest to where Mark was sitting and spoke directly to him through her microphone. "Sir, are you okay?" Taylor asked gently. "I can see that this song affected you deeply." Mark looked up at Taylor in amazement, realizing that she was speaking directly to him in front of 20,000 people. Through his tears, he managed to respond loudly enough for her to hear. "My wife Sarah died of cancer 6 months ago," Mark called out. "This was her favorite song, and I brought her ashes with me because we promised we'd see you in concert together." The arena fell completely silent as 20,000 people processed the heartbreaking revelation that Mark had brought his deceased wife's remains to fulfill a promise they had made during her final illness. Taylor's expression immediately changed to one of deep compassion and understanding. "What was your wife's name?" Taylor asked. "Sarah Thompson. She followed your career for 15 years and always said your music helped her feel less alone." Taylor stood quietly for a moment, visibly moved by Mark's story and the dedication he had shown to honoring Sarah's memory. "Mark, would you be comfortable joining me on stage so I can meet Sarah and perform something special for both of you?" Mark was stunned by Taylor's invitation, but he carefully picked up the urn containing Sarah's ashes and made his way to the stage, where Taylor greeted him with a gentle hug and asked to be introduced to Sarah. "Sarah," Taylor said, speaking to the urn that Mark held carefully in his hands, "I'm so honored to meet you, and I'm so sorry that you couldn't be here in person. But I want you to know that your husband's love for you is one of the most beautiful things I've ever witnessed." Taylor then made an unprecedented decision that moved everyone in the arena to tears. "Mark, I want to perform a private acoustic concert for you and Sarah," Taylor announced. "This is your date night, and I want it to be everything she would have wanted." What followed was unlike anything anyone in the arena had ever experienced. Taylor performed an intimate 20-minute acoustic set from the center of the stage, singing "The Best Day," "Death by a Thousand Cuts," and "Soon You'll Get Better," while Mark sat in a chair beside her, holding Sarah's ashes and occasionally speaking to the urn as if Sarah could hear the performance. "This one's for you, Sarah," Taylor said before each song, treating the deceased woman as if she were a living audience member whose presence was as important as anyone else's in the arena. The most emotional moment came when Taylor performed an acoustic version of Love Story, explaining that she had chosen it because Mark and Sarah's love story had continued even after death, and that bringing Sarah to the concert proved that true love transcends every boundary, including mortality. "Romeo, take me somewhere we can be alone," Taylor sang directly to the urn, and Mark began crying again as he realized that Taylor was performing the song as if Sarah could hear every word. When the acoustic set ended, Taylor made another announcement that surprised everyone present. "Mark, I want to establish a foundation in Sarah's memory to help families dealing with terminal illness create musical memories together before it's too late. The Sarah Thompson Memorial Fund will provide concert tickets, travel assistance, and recording opportunities for families who are fighting cancer and want to experience music together." Mark was overwhelmed by Taylor's generosity, and by the way she had honored Sarah's memory. But Taylor had one more surprise. "Mark, I want you to know that Sarah will have permanent seats at every concert I perform for the rest of my career. There will always be space for both of you at my shows, and you're welcome to bring her with you whenever you need to feel connected to her memory." The Sarah Thompson Memorial Fund became one of Taylor's most successful charitable initiatives, providing thousands of families with opportunities to create musical memories during difficult medical treatments and end-of-life care. Mark became actively involved in the foundation's work, sharing his and Sarah's story to help other families understand the healing power of experiencing live music together during terminal illness. 6 months later, Mark attended another Taylor Swift concert, again bringing Sarah's ashes and sitting in the seats that Taylor had permanently reserved for them. But this time, he also brought 3 families who had received assistance from the Sarah Thompson Memorial Fund, cancer patients and their loved ones who were experiencing live music together for the first time, thanks to the foundation that had grown from his decision to fulfill a promise to his deceased wife. "That night taught me that love doesn't end with death," Mark would say when sharing his story. Sarah couldn't be there physically, but Taylor treated her as if she were the most important person in the audience. That kind of respect for love and memory is what makes music healing. Taylor continued to dedicate Ronan to Sarah Thompson at every concert, and she often spoke about how Mark's devotion to his wife's memory had reminded her that music is most powerful when it helps people feel connected to the ones they love, whether they're present in person or present in spirit. "Mark showed me that night that the most important audience members are sometimes the ones we can't see," Taylor would reflect when discussing the concert. Sarah was there in every song, in Mark's love for her, and in the promise he kept. That's what music is really for, to help us feel connected to the people and emotions that matter most. The wooden urn that had contained Sarah's ashes was eventually placed in a memorial garden that Mark created in their backyard, but not before it had attended dozens more concerts and helped create musical memories for countless other families who were facing their own battles with terminal illness. And every time Mark attended a Taylor Swift concert, he could feel Sarah's presence not just in his memories, but in the music that had helped them both understand that love, once created, becomes part of the universe in ways that death can never diminish. Sometimes the most profound love stories are the ones that continue long after death, when someone chooses to honor a promise made in life by sharing that love with the world. Mark Thompson's decision to bring Sarah's ashes to fulfill their shared dream of attending a Taylor Swift concert proved that true devotion means finding ways to include our loved ones in the experiences they can no longer have, and that grief shared with others becomes a force for healing that extends far beyond our own pain. His simple act of carrying an urn to a concert because he had promised his dying wife they would attend together demonstrated that the deepest connections we make transcend every boundary, including mortality, and that when we honor those connections publicly, we create opportunities for others to understand that love is the most powerful force in human experience. The most beautiful thing about that night wasn't the private concert or the foundation that followed, but the reminder that when we refuse to let death end our love stories, we inspire others to live and love more deeply, knowing that the connections we create with music, with each other, and with the memories of those we've lost can transform not just our own lives, but the lives of everyone who witnesses our dedication to keeping love alive.